Hey Eagle fans, it's EaglefanKarl. This is going to be my preview and prediction video for tomorrow's game against the New York Giants. And normally in these videos I do a lot of breakdowns on stats in terms of where teams rank on offense and defense and how that compares to the Eagles. But I'm not gonna worry about any of that this week for a couple of reasons. Number one, just generally, when you've got games against division opponents, stats generally don't matter quite as much. The teams know each other real well. We've already played each other once this year, so they sort of know some of the tendencies even based off of that. And there's also a revenge factor in the sense that, we beat them pretty bad earlier in the year, so they're going to be thinking about that, and that's probably going to charge them up a little bit. So you got all those factors involved, so I really think it doesn't matter for these types of division games anyway. And then the other reason is just simply because our stats don't match our players right now. Do you know who those guys are? Can you really tell me who those guys are? A month ago, I couldn't have told you who those guys were. But now those are our cornerbacks for tomorrow's game because our secondary is so banged up. So the fact of the matter is we just don't have... you can't really look at our stats and say that's necessarily how our defense is going to play because the players that made those stats aren't the players that are going to be playing in tomorrow's game. So when I look at this game, I really look at it as a good news, bad news kind of thing. The good news is the division is still very winnable. Those are the division standings right now, and when it comes down to this and really the nitty-gritty end of the season, you really look at the loss column and figure out where are the losses still on the schedule and where are the wins still on the schedule. And the division is very winnable. Think about it this way: the Cowboys have to play the Saints on Thursday night. Which means that assuming that they lose, if we win the next two games, we're going to be in a three-way tie with the Cowboys in Washington. So you've got, because we'll all have five losses, or we'll have six losses if that happens. We'll all be 6-6, and that's going to be sort of the stretch run going down for the last 4 games. Think about it this way then. If we beat the Cowboys the following week, we are going to be in the driver's seat for the division because we'll have beaten Washington heads up, and we'll then have a lead on the Cowboys, even though we split the series with them. So if we win the next 3 games, we're going to be in charge of the division. Think about it this way also. If the Cowboys lose, this is assuming the Cowboys lose to the Saints. If the Cowboys lose to the Saints, then really we control our destiny even if we do lose to the Rams later in the season, because the most that those teams can get to then is 9 wins if we win the games against them, because we've got 2 against Washington and 1 against Dallas. So, that's sort of, we could all finish 9-7 at that point, and we would still win the division based on tiebreakers. So that's even if we lose to the Rams. So we can still win this division. This division is very winnable, and that's the good side of this, is really looking at the fact that, as poorly as this team has played all year, the division is very much in reach, and we don't even have to run the table to do it. Of course, the bad news in all this is I don't know how we're going to win this Sunday, and that just goes to the fact of how we're playing as a team, and we're starting to play some of our worst football, and the Giants are starting to play some of their best football of the year. So it really does not bode well for this team going into this game. The reason that is just simply because the Giants have actually been playing balanced football lately. They've found a formula that's worked for them the last couple of weeks. They have allowed Eli to play sort of that short, quick, efficient game that he's good at. And they've relied a lot on the running game with Saquon Barkley. And so they finally figured out sort of a formula on offense that allows them to score points. And their defense has played okay. They haven't been playing great. They've been playing okay. But based on the way our offense is playing right now, are you convinced that the Eagles could win in a shootout against the Giants? And I'm not. I'm not convinced that we could win that kind of a game. This really has to do with how bad our defense is banged up right now, and our secondary especially. The Giants have learned the formula against us. In many ways, they've shown the rest of the league. If you go up-tempo against our team, it really sort of keeps our pass rush at bay and exposes our cornerbacks. And when you've got even our less than stellar cornerbacks are out and we're now playing guys that are even worse than that, it really raises some concerns for this team because, Eli has shown that he can take advantage of those underneath routes. those quick hits, he certainly is going to be able to do that. And the way Jim Schwartz plays his defense, with the secondary generally playing off receivers because he doesn't want to get having guys get burnt, it's really going to be problematic for this team to really end up having a situation where you're going to have to stop a team all the way down the field. And the Giants have shown that they've got a decent running game too. So even when you get in the red zone, you've got to respect Saquon Barkley and what he could potentially do. So the way I look at it, there's really only two ways we're going to be able to win this game. One of them is our offense wins a shootout, which could happen. That's potentially, if our offense gets things turned around and righted their ship, it's entirely possible that we could win in a shootout. But the more likely scenario is if we're going to win this game, it's going to be because of turnovers, which our defense hasn't really shown that it can cause. So it really does sort of lend itself to a bad situation, I think, for us. We're just not playing good football. I mean, there is also the possibility that we are going to be desperate. But I think that's going to be offset by the fact that the Giants are going to know we're a division rival. And at this point, as poorly as the division's playing, the Giants are looking at the fact that they've got 7 losses. If they win out and go 9-7, they could win the division. So you put all that stuff together, and it just does not bode well for this game. I also look at it this way. The Giants basically know if they win this game tomorrow, our season's over. So many respects, they can end our season tomorrow if they win. So I think that's going to motivate them as well. And I just, like I said, I really don't see how this team is able to get up for this game and win this game against a team that knows how to beat us. And they've shown they know how to beat us, even though they haven't been very successful the last few times. They've gotten close. They had really 2 close games against us last year when they were terrible and we won the Super Bowl. And then earlier this season, I think that was just, they were struggling earlier in the year and we took full advantage of it. But they've gotten their ship together. They really know exactly, I think, what they're doing and how to play with what they've got. And in that respect, I just think that they're going to be loaded for bear against a team they know is on the ropes and they know could potentially have their season over if they lose. Listen, I'd love to be wrong on this, but I'm going to have to pick against the Eagles in this game, and I would have never thought that 3 weeks ago. I would have never thought I'd be picking against picking the Giants against the Eagles in a home game. I don't think I ever would have thought that. But that's sort of where I'm at with this game. Like I said, I think the offense will show up and will score some points. I just don't think it's going to be enough because I don't think this defense is really going to be able to do anything to stop them. For that reason, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Giants to win this game. My score is going to be 38-34. Just like I said, I think it is going to be a bit of a shootout, a lot of up and down. Maybe we get some turnovers and we're able to flip that and get the better end of that. But ultimately, the way our defense has played and not getting turnovers, I don't see that happening. And I don't think our offense, we've been as creative enough on offense to really be able to win in a shootout either. That's my prediction. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Obviously, I'll check in after the game, let you know what I think. Until then, fly Eagles fly.